Hello everyone, Shifty Styles here, and this is going to be a very different kind of video. Now, if you're unaware or tried to suppress the memory, in which case I'm sorry in advance, a game released earlier this year titled 1348 Ex Voto to, well, not the best reception, and the player count has, well, you can see it on screen. But we're not here to discuss the game's player count or the reviews. I want to talk about fully reimagining this game. As a proof of concept, we'll only be redesigning the main character, Aeta. If the video does well enough, I'll reimagine the entire game from start to finish. Strictly the story and characters, of course. Before we dive into the redesign, I want to talk about Aeta's current design. I won't just call the whole design ugly and move on. I want to explain the different aspects of the outfit and why I don't like the design itself. To me, this design feels kind of all over the place. In this game, it's explained that Aeta is meant to be a knight in medieval Italy. However, the design doesn't really come off as knight's attire. If you were to ask me, upon first glance, I saw this design as more of a rogue in a fantasy world. The first thing that stands out to me is the red torn cape and the unusual cloth that kind of drapes down on the back. The cape kind of feels tacked on and comes off as more of a torn hoodie than a cape. Granted, it does wrap itself around the left arm and pops as a color, but why is it covering the armor around the chest? It feels a bit out of place here. It doesn't seem like it's meant to serve as a heavy cloak, because it's too short to cover her whole arm or serve any defensive purpose, so it seems kind of pointless from a combat perspective. The cloth around the waist also seems to get in the way. If a knight is meant to be ready for combat, they'd either want armor to protect them from hits, or less bulky clothing in order to maneuver around easier. Here it just seems more just kind of a hazard, really. In both a tripping hazard and a combat hazard, if an enemy were to just grab the cloak or sneak up on her, then there's nothing she can really do. The bags around the outfit also don't really help. Granted, a knight would want to carry provisions if they plan to, go on a long journey or something, but the bags here feel stapled on for the sake of proving that, there's somewhere you can put your items, And again, with how much they kind of sway around when moving, it ended up being more of a hazard mid-combat. I also want to talk about the metal arm as well, as I actually think this makes sense here. Since she's swinging with the non-armored arm, it makes sense for her to have one of these, in case she has to block a hit. But when you take in the rest of the design, it feels out of place, as it's the only bit of armor that Aeta seems to have. Possibly minus the boots, though that seems more like shin guards, if anything. And yes, we should talk about Aeta's appearance herself. Throughout the game, she has two hairstyles, the bowl cut and the tied up hair. Honestly, I don't really feel anything when looking at the hair. If it's meant to convey like an androgynous look, it doesn't really read as that. I actually don't dislike the tied up hairstyle. It's not bad, but again, the rest of the character design doesn't change when the hairstyle changes, so it's just kind of a hair swap. The bowl cut itself is just kind of a hit or miss for me, and it's mainly a miss. I'm not a fan of it personally. I know in their developer talk thing, they said it was meant to be historically accurate, but I don't know. I think there's too many aspects of the current design that just don't make sense to me. So with that out of the way, let's begin with the changes that I would make. Now, I first want to establish a few of the story changes overall. I know I said I wasn't going to talk about redesigning the whole game today, but I wanted to share how the world would be different from the original game, and hopefully that kind of explains some of my changes here. So, for starters, the entire world wouldn't be based on realism. I'd want to go for a more stylized fantasy theme here. I'm drawing a lot of inspiration from Fire Emblem, funny enough. While that world is set in sort of the medieval times, it takes a more fantastical approach to the design. Specifically, my lead inspiration comes from Lucina in her Marth costume. In her first appearance, she introduced herself as Marth, the Hero King, and the characters in that game believed she was Marth before it was revealed to be Lucina, who had traveled back in time to save Crom, but disguised herself as Marth to not give her identity away. Correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't played Awakening. Since I don't want any confusion, we'll refer to the new characters as Amelie, and the new princess character as Brigitte. Sure, these names might not be the most consistently historical, but again, we're not going for historical accuracy here. Starting with the artwork, I went with a more common depiction of medieval armor, though I did change a few things around. For starters, I got rid of all the heavy bags around the outfit, the unnecessary cloth. I turned the red sort of short cape into a longer cape. That way, this cape can be used as more of a defensive cloth. Perhaps if she switches stances to have the sword in the armored arm, she could use the cloth to defend her unarmored arm. I opted for more of that Fire Emblem inspired design here with the medieval boots, but also had like some of the leggings there as well. That way she's not fully restricted in her movements. I also put the Ex Voto sort of symbol on the left arm here, so that way, because it does seem to be an important symbol in the actual game itself, but I chose to sort of depict that as perhaps the symbol of the kingdom, or maybe the armor that she would wear herself. It's something I chose kind of as a last minute decision. Yeah, the armor is pretty basic in terms of color palette. I went with kind of a goldish trim. I'm thinking like this could be the upgraded armor that she gets when she joins the kingdom. At least that's kind of my sort of headcanon here. The sword, I didn't really do anything special with the sword. It's just kind of as it is. It's just a medieval sword, I'll be honest with you. There was no real specifics there. With the bandages on the left arm here, I wanted to kind of infer that maybe during the time that Amelie and Brigitte spent together, she had gotten wounded trying to defend her. And so Brigitte kind of tended to the wound, told her, "Oh, you must take care of yourself. You must not risk yourself so much for me." So she keeps the bandages kind of exposed. The wound has long since healed, but she kind of wears the bandages as like reminder of who she's fighting for, essentially. There was one aspect of this design that was the hardest for me, and that was the mask. For some reason, when I was doing the mask, I wanted to go with this sort of tarot card design initially. Wanted to have like, I know I'm not meant to be talking like gameplay of this reimagined game, but perhaps each of the bosses you face were tied to a certain tarot card, and I wanted Amelie here to have one of the arcana. I forgot which one specifically, but it was what I was going for. So in the final design, I just went with a standard like mask to cover her eyes, very inspired by Lucina's mask as well. And I kept the hair pretty short, kind of messy at the same time, to show perhaps she doesn't do as much self-care as she should. She could do better in that sort of aspect, and maybe that's where Brigitte comes in. You know, she's kind of the caretaker in private for her, helps her clean up, freshen up, that sort of thing. Allow me to kind of give a rewritten backstory for our character. Allow me to get my narrator voice here. Give me 1 second. Amelie's family was exiled from her kingdom long ago. Despite her father having served for years nobly, the king gave no true explanation, and his decision was followed through. Years passed by, and her father trained Amelie endlessly, tirelessly, to one day take his former place in the armies of the kingdom. Until such a time, she operated as a rogue fighter, hunting down criminals who dared turn against the kingdom, selflessly refusing credit for her successes. She operated under the title of the Knight of No Name, a Cavaliere Senza Nome. While roaming the woods after hearing rumors of a bandit camp, Amelie saves young Princess Brigitte and is brought to the kingdom, introduced to the king against her wishes. The king welcomes her to the Knights of the Kingdom, where Brigitte stems away from her usual studies and starts to grow a fondness for Amelie, despite initial unrequited disinterest from Amelie. However, as the years go by, the kingdom is suddenly ambushed by an unnamed army, and the king is kidnapped. Armed with only her sword and Brigitte's company, Amelie ventures off in search of the king, in hopes of restoring her family's honor. And after all the artwork has been completed, here is the final product. I'm really proud of how this one turned out, despite my art skills and limitations. I even made this mock-up of the cover art with a brand new design, and the new title that I've come up with, Ex Voto Amoris. Let me know what you think, and let me know if I should go forward with reimagining the entire game, from start to finish. Thank Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay safe out there.